Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Hello,
Hi,
Dr.
Shikha.
Katie. Yeah. Hi, Rahul.
How are you?
Hi, Shikhar, can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. I think, yeah, we'll wait for another 1 or 2 minutes, then we'll start the session.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Ayushi, I think we can start now.
Sure. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So, good evening, everyone. I would like to introduce the moderator of the higher education, continuing with the higher education breakout session, Dr. Shikha Bakhi. She is currently working as a postdoctoral researcher at the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. She received a doctoral degree from the Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. Prior to joining IIT Guwahati, she completed her MTech in wireless communication and computing from Indian Institute of Information Technology, Allahabad, graduating in the batch of 2013-15. Her primary research interests revolve around speech processing, signal processing, and deep learning. Dr. Bhagev is an active member of IEEE and ISCS societies. Additionally, she has contributed her expertise as a reviewer for various esteemed international journals and conferences related to speech processing. Recently, she organized a research challenge on a global scale. Now, I would like to call Dr. Shikha ma'am to kindly take over the session.
Yeah. Thank you, Ayushi, for such a nice introduction. So, hello everyone. I'm honored to be here as a part of the core organizing committee of this alumni meet 2023. I extend my warm welcome to all of you to this breakout session where we'll be dealing with and then discover the different aspects of higher studies. And we have our esteemed panelist here. So I welcome our panelists who have achieved great heights in higher education and research. I am also grateful to them for accepting our invitation despite of their busy schedule. I would like to start this session by introducing our one of the most experienced panelists, Professor Dhananjay Singh. Professor Singh currently holds the position of Professor and Director of the Research Lab in the School of Professional Studies at St. Louis University, USA. Previously, he served as a professor in the Department of Electronics Engineering and Dean in the Global Division of Information Technology at Hong Kong University of Foreign Studies in South Korea. Prior to these appointments, he worked as a postdoctoral researcher and senior member of engineering staff on Future Internet Architecture Group at the National Institute of Mathematical Sciences and Electronics and Telecommunication Research Institute in South Korea. Professor Singh received his PhD from Dongsu University in South Korea and completed his MTech in IT with a specialization in wireless communication and computing from IIIT Allahabad. He graduated from the batch of 2004 and 6 batch. He is the co-author and editor of several books, and he holds several patents as well, several published research articles. Dr. Singh is also co-founder, CTO, and research advisor for companies, and these firms provide solutions for on the basis of data sciences, autonomous vehicles, AI, cloud computing, blockchain, metaverse, IoT technologies to support smart city technologies. In recognition of his remarkable contributions to the field of technology, Dr. Singh received the state government of Uttar Pradesh Bharatiya Ratna Puraskar at the 15th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas Convention in 2019. Thank you, Professor Singh, for joining us today.
Thank you, Sikha. Thank you.
Our next panelist is Dr. Kirti Dhwaj. He currently serves as an assistant professor in the Center for Applied Research in Electronics at IIT Delhi. Prior to this, he was a visiting researcher at the Georgia Institute of Technology. He received his PhD and MS degree both in electrical engineering from the University of California, Los Angeles. He completed his BTech degree in 2012 from IIIT Allahabad with a specialization in electronics and communication engineering. Dr. Dhwaj brings valuable industry experience, having worked for companies such as Bell Laboratories, Silicon Laboratories, and Broadcom. His research focuses on areas including microwave filtering antennas, full duplexing antenna systems, microwave filters, and terahertz on-chip antennas. He has made significant research contributions, which are featured in numerous respected IEEE journals and conferences. I welcome you, Dr. Dhwaj, once again in this session.
Thank you, Shikha. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Our next panelist is my colleague and friend, Dr. Rahul Jaiswal. We are from the same batch of IIIT Allahabad. So he is currently a senior product engineer in wireless platform group at European Research Development Center of Analog Devices, Ireland. He also held the position of researcher in Advanced RF Technologies group at Tyndall National Institute, Ireland, where he has worked on a DARPA US project on developing the high-frequency microwave circuits. Talking about his educational background, Dr. Jaiswal received his PhD in RF and microwave engineering from the Electronics and Communication Engineering Department at IIT Roorkee. He has completed his MTech in Communication Engineering from IIIT Allahabad, graduating from 2013-15 batch. His research interests primarily include the design and characterization of the microwave and MM circuit. He has authored several book chapters, reputed international journals, conferences in his field of expertise. He has received the Young Scientist Award in the URSI GSS 2020 for his research contributions. He is actively involved in publishing his research as journal articles and conferences. Thank you, Rahul, for joining us today.
Thank you, Shikha.
Last but not the least, I welcome Dr. Anirban Bhowal. Again, we are from the same batch of IIIT and we also share the same batch during our PhD. So Dr. Bhowal currently holds the position of Assistant Professor in the Department of ECE at NIT Rourkela. Before this role, he served as an Assistant Professor at IIIT Naya Raipur and worked as a postdoctoral fellow at EMT INRS Montreal. He received his PhD from the Electronics and Electrical Department at IIT Guwahati. Dr. Bhowal completed his MTech in Communication Engineering from IIIT Allahabad, graduating from 2013 and 15 batch. His research interests primarily focus on the RIS and spatial modulation for energy, spectrally efficient wireless communication. He actively contributes to the scholarly community as a reviewer for various esteemed international journals and conferences. He has also served as a TPC member for IEEE ICC and NCC conferences. And he has also authored one book and contributed to several reputed international journals and conferences. He is the recipient of the Best PhD Thesis Award and student travel grants for attending conferences. Thank you, Anirban, for joining this session.
Thank you, Shikha, for the introduction.
So for this session, we have received a lot of queries and questions from IIIT students. So we will be taking their questions one by one, and our panelists will share their views on that particular question. So let's begin this session. So the most commonly asked question was like related to the motivation for higher education. So when I was reading, I was going through all the list. So I went to my bachelor life. So when I was in BTech or something, I never thought about going for a higher education at that level. So being a bachelor student point of view, the common trend is you complete your bachelor, get a placement and have a handsome salary. But all of you took a slightly different path and you opted for higher education. So the question or my question is, what motivated you to pursue a career in higher education? And if you could describe your journey from Triple IT Allahabad to where you are now. So I would like to start with Professor Dhananjay.
All right. So yeah, as like everyone, we also didn't decided to go for higher study during our bachelor education, and but triple IT play a very big role for me to go this path. During my master's degree, when I was doing my MTech wireless communication and computing department, and during that time we have choose a lots of coursework, and that time professors give us term paper, if you remember. So everybody got term paper, and during that time we have to read one or two papers and write down the summary and then have to present in the class. So so from there we get to interest to read about the research paper. How otherwise it's very difficult for the students undergrad, because they do not know what is the research paper, because there is only text, no diagrams, nothing. So it looks very boring, and when you are going to read technology, it's make you to sleep. So but because of it's connected with the our subject, so everybody works for the grade, and then we read about the term paper, and there we get to know that what is research paper, and we study about that. So so we started from there. Actually, that was the initial journey. So during when I was Triple IT Allahabad, I was very lucky, because at that time we started one conference called Wireless Communication and Sensor Network, WCSN. It was we started that conference. Me and Professor US Tiwari was big roles that we started that topic. And that time also Professor Tiwari introduced the wireless sensor network course. It was elective course, and so that time I took that course, studied about wireless sensor network. It was very hot topic at that time, 2004 and 2005. And then after when we start new course, we need to find out the student who is going to opt that subject. So at that time, new subject nobody wanted to study. That is also a very big challenge. So that time we convinced some of our colleagues in wireless communication department. We were around 18 students, where out of 5 girls, and I talked to them one by one. So we choose that course. There was the 6th student who chose, and that subject started. So so there I found the wireless sensor network one of the topic to do the research work. At the short, I did my master's thesis in wireless communication under the wireless sensor network, under the guidance of Professor US Tiwari. So at that time, my master thesis was the connectivity of ad hoc sensor network with fixed node. At that time, sensor nodes has to connect with the computer. It was very big challenging task. So at that time, we studied AODB protocols to do modification over the protocol to how to implement in wireless sensor network. So it was the NS2 network simulator. I did that. So same work I submitted APAN meeting, Asia Pacific Advanced Networking. There was the conference every 3 months. It's going in the Asia Pacific region. So I submitted that work there, master thesis, and it was NUS, National University of Singapore. So I went there to present my master's thesis work, and then I saw how the peoples are enjoying. And it was my first trip, abroad trip, and the food was very interesting food, and people were talking a lot about the research, and this made me to get into about the research work. Let me tell you. And then I talked to the Professor Tiwari. Then he emphasized me to go with this direction, to follow my passion into the research field. And that was the main beginning from then. And then Professor Tiwari also recommended me to move South Korea. Then under his guidance, I did my PhD and then continue. I worked around 16 years in South Korea. So totally life change from there. So what I can say that triple IT has big role to emphasize and to push my career towards research field.
Yeah, I can also relate like a lot of things here because I'm also from WCC batch, so I can also relate those NS2 simulator and lot of things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then, like, if I, summarize one thing, the very interesting aspect is the food and the conference networking was one of the main
Exactly.
motivating aspect for you. Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, Dr. Kirti, if you would like to share your story.
Yeah, I think, Shika, what batch are you in masters?
2013 and 15.
Yeah, so it seems like four of us are same batchmates, you
Yes,
know.
yes, yes.
Although I am not a master's from a triple IT, I'm a bachelor student. In this way, I stand apart from every other panelist and you. Um,
Yes.
but I guess a graduate of the same batch. Um, I think I'll try to frame my answer and opinion from a BTech student's perspective, if anybody hears this thing, and why to choose this, field, and why did I choose this? So I think there's always an axe on your neck that, as you specifically pointed out, what about the salary? 6-7 years you'll be bereft of money coming into your pockets. I mean, this obviously plays a part, but during our time, the salaries were not, this skyrocketing high. I mean, when I got in, I think the average was around 4 or 5 lakhs, and when we were about to graduate, and when we did, I think it reached around 7 lakhs PA, per annum. So, I mean, obviously, times have changed of now. Um, However, I would also like to point that my batch did produce the largest number of doctoral students from bachelor's till date. So it was also kind of a cultural thing which had seeped into our batch, and a lot of it has to go with a program that started with the Canadian government. It was called as MyTax. What the program was supposed to do was take on students from IITs and send them to the better Canadian universities where they would spend their summers and come back to India. I mean, that was Canadian government's attempt to build bridges with India, with Indian students. That's what advanced countries generally do, Western countries. Um, I am a bureaucrat's son, so private sector was never a fond ghetto for me. What I wanted to do was stay in the government, but wanted to be a bureaucrat. However, was also hyper competitive. So this my tax thing, I didn't make it. I did not have a very good GPA. I think languishing around 8.1, 8.2, and that, as it happens in the early years of your BTech, your GPA becomes your selection criteria. So I didn't make it, but I also really like triple IT. I was involved with other stuff also. I really like the lifestyle there. So I decided that I want to live in campuses, and I am from Jaipur. So what is the closest place I could be? So IIT Delhi became a very good goal to come back to. And from there on, everything I did has been in a plan to come back to IIT Delhi. And I think it took me 6 years from 2012 to 2018. And here I am. So there's not much, interesting event that has happened in between. It has been a very, I mean, very well paved journey, but that has what it has been. I wanted to live a lifestyle which I thought would be, and that's where I landed. So not much to add to it.
Yeah, it's your journey is like I was looking your bio and everything. So it is in like I would say because I'm also similar background in some things. I would say yeah, it's a dream for an Indian to be get into IIT system, and for you within a 10 years after your bachelor's, and right now you are assistant professor in IIT. It's a very good journey for you.
Thank you. No, actually, I was in after 7 years. I graduated in 2012 when I was an assistant professor in 2019.
Oh,
Yeah. So
sorry,
it was
sorry.
7 years. No, no, that's okay. And I'm your batchmate, so you don't need to call me sir. But it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so let's move forward with another panelist. Anirban, if you could share your views.
Yeah, so thank you very much for your thoughts, everyone. So, as summarized by Kirti also, so during our bachelor, this is correct. The salaries were not that much lucrative, so economically, it was like viable to go for higher studies at that point. I would say like 7-8 lakhs was the average package, as you correctly pointed out. So when I was in BTech also, like I wasn't very much interested to do a 9 to 5 some corporate job or something. So that initially pushed me towards like higher education, like doing a MTech for the time being at least. I didn't think of PhD and life after that. So yeah, so economically also both were almost same around that time. Yeah, so I went for MTech. So and again in MTech, as Professor Dhananjay also correctly pointed out, that we were given some term papers and so on. So that's where actually my research career started, or I got to know about IEEE papers. So before that, in BTech, I wasn't aware of these things. Nowadays, even BTech students are reading IEEE papers and all. They are doing, I mean, really well. They are doing projects and sometimes publishing also. But in nowadays, like internet was also not good at our homes and all, so we didn't have access to these things. So at Triple ITA, firstly, I got to know about this, that we have to read journals and do something. I mean, novel work and these things. So yeah, in one of the term papers only I remember actually it was related to antenna. I think Professor Chandrasekhar at that time was taking this course. I remember Rahul and we were all working on like this research papers. That's where the initial interest came in. And yeah, at the end of 2 years again, I got a job also for Triple IT. So placement is not a factor again. So, but I decided to move on to higher education. I got an offer in PhD from IIT Guwahati. So I decided to move on after getting some interest in research about wireless communication and all. So previously I was not focused in doing exactly on communication, but since like in MTech we had two options, either VLSI or communication. So I just selected communication at the time, and I got interested in those things after going through the coursework and research papers. So I got into again wireless communication in my PhD, where I really got motivated from my professor Rakesh Singh Sitrimayu and my other colleagues as well, everyone. Like Shikha was also my batchmate there, so everyone really contributed. And doing my PhD only, I got motivated to go further and do postdoc and establish myself in academia and apply for like faculty positions in Indian institutes. So after that, I did my postdoc from Canada, where again got inspired by Professor Sonia Isa, who is again an expert in this field of wireless communication, and her wonderful research group. And yeah, after that, I landed up here in India in assistant professor position. So that's what my journey from Triple ITA to my current role.
Yeah. Thank you, Anirban. Yeah, Rahul, if you could describe about your journey, and then is there any motivating moment or some a set of incidents?
Yeah. Thank you, Sika. Actually, for a UG student, it is the same for everyone. It is true. Like we don't know anything about the research. We don't know about the IEEE papers, everything. But in the premium institutes now, every professor is having the term like you can read the paper and you can give summary like that. But in tier two colleges, these are not available. Even you don't have any access for that. So until UG, it is similar like, and at the age matters. In the 18 to 20 age, you can't think about what are going to do. No thought. We are going to study, and you are, oh, this is the company. I will go. I will get paid. That's it. And but at that time, I want to do like some sort of specialization like in electronics. So I went to triple IT, and then what happened in the second semester, I think, when I met with Professor Nitesh Purohit, then he introduced me like this is the project, and you can, if you can work, it is a very good topic. So I went to, at that time, one senior was Harishwar sir was there. So he told me that this is the wireless power transmission topic he's working on. So you can work on it. This is very fancy to me. Oh, wireless power transmission. So at that time, okay, he shared me some research paper. I came to lab and I was reading them. So at that time, when I was reading that, so I see that the titles, the name on the name of the researcher who has done this research. So I was thinking that, oh, these papers are available in the internet, and you need have some access to access that papers. So it is really a good, exciting thing. So they have they have get did very well and do all the research, then come back and write the paper. So these things like how much thinking level is involved to get from the research level to the paper. So at that time, I have started figuring out, let's go for this PhD thing in higher education. So I decided to go for PhD, and I got into IIT Roorkee, where I met with professor, and he's the same domain, RF microwave domain. So I started in the same domain. So I remember one quote from professor when I was first meeting with him. So he said that, Rahul, PhD is not a journey of only scientific findings, so but also a complete transformation of a person's ability of thinking. So at that time I was not like, okay, what he's saying I don't know, but when I realized at this time, so yeah, the transformation I can see from that point of view to this point of view, I can feel it. So by this way I have gone through all the things, then came to Ireland as a postdoc. So I worked on this project, industry related project. So now I'm into the industry, so working with the analog devices. So this is the journey so far.
Yes. I also, I can also relate with this, the real transformation of a person. So initially, I used to think why this philosophy word is there in PhD, but now I can understand why it is that philosophy.
Yeah.
So it is not your technical transformation, it is something, all your perspective, how to tackle a problem, be it personal problem or, any kind of, so your totally your aptitude is changed
It's
after your
changing. Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah. Something you saw some topic, and you see that, okay, how after PhD we will split the topic like, oh, this is the problem. So how can we subcategorize the problem? So we
Yes.
split the problems into sub problems. Okay. Our thinking ability is some different level. So we can feel it.
And
So,
then one of the like with me, in a worse scenario, then also I can say, oh, something will happen positively. Don't worry.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
attitude, got
Yeah.
after my PhD only, after paper
Yeah.
rejection, everything. Now, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
what can happen after this? So,
You live with the whole journey in 5 years,
okay, so
Okay.
now let's take the another question. So the another one is, what challenges do you often encounter in your role, and how do you overcome them? So, any one of you would like to take this first? Should I repeat the question once again? What
Yeah, I think.
challenges do you often encounter in your role, and how do you overcome them?
All right, so let me give you some brief about that. I had few experience when I choose young students under me, and it's very hard. I was professor in Korea around 10 years, and as assistant professor, then associate, then full professor there also. And during that time, I got grant, and I used to hire some student. And so when you choose student, so it's very hard to convince them to go with the research field also, because most of the students who try to come into R&D field, they really want to compare themselves with other part of the world as well. So some of the students, they try to compare with their friends are doing master's degree or PhD degree in UK or USA. So they compare themselves. So why they are working only 8 hours and why we are working 12 hours here in Korea. So this kind of things, even though we had Korea very hard working hours. So usually everybody works 12 to 14 hours during their research period, and it's compulsory to stay in the lab because professors also work with the students 24/7. So whenever students has problem, he can go and meet. But in the part of other world, they have to take appointment and then they have fixed schedule like that. But Korea is totally different because we have a grant, we have to submit the report every month, every 3 months, and then based on that we increase our grant as well. So that's why it's kind of research is kind of working, because South Korea also research mainly the application based research, and it's hard. So I had some experience with the students who joined 6 months and after that they left lab and go back to their country, and then they thought that they will find the position in again Europe and other country, and but somehow they got trouble, and then later again they try to contact and rejoin the lab. But this kind of things also happen a lot. Second thing, most of the students also, they try to get into this field, they think they have not getting the proper package in their industry, so they can join the R&D field as a masters and PhD, and then they get to back to the industry as well. But what I just want to mention here, if somebody want to join as a research field, he has to focus and he has to know that why he is going to join in this academia for higher study as well. So that is very very important in starting. I just want to emphasize because lots of students also listening, everybody has to give at least 6 months if he really want to join, because starting 6 months is very hard for everybody who try to join for higher study, because it's hard to decide the topic, which topic he's going to pursue for next 3 to 4 5 years. So the professors try to help them. Second thing, student has to trust on their professor. It's very very important because professor has full picture about the topic, not students who is going to read the paper and title. So usually professors give them small tasks, then they want to test their students, he is capable to lead their topic or not. So they have to trust their professor. Before joining the lab, they have to be smart to choose right professor. That is also very very important. So which professor he is going to pursue his graduate program, he can decide before, based on their research work, based on their profile, based on their interview interaction, they can make a mindset, and then after he should join to the professor and trust them at least 6 months. After 6 months he can make decision he want to pursue that topic or not. So that is very very important. Everybody has to give at least 6 months if he is going for higher study. That I just want to mention here.
Yeah, Anirban, what are your
Yeah,
opinions?
so yes, sure. So one of the challenges which we regularly face is like rejection of papers and all. So that is always there in research life. We have to take it from a positive point of view and try to improve always. Another thing is that like the students, yeah, so students nowadays don't want to work on some research topic. They are always motivated like this machine learning and deep learning and these type of things where the industry aspect is also there, and it's like easier to model from them. They just pick out one model and then just feed the input and get the output. So they like to get, they just get swayed away by these things. So that is another challenge to try and motivate them into other research fields and go deeper into things. Like they just try to work on a superficial basis, which is actually not the right approach in PhDs and higher studies. So again, it's very difficult to motivate them for higher studies. As Professor Dhananjay also pointed out, they always try to compare with their friends and their peers who may be working in some different domain in some other part of the world and something. And always in like in India, the financial thing is always there from Indian families and parents. So they always try to look for jobs and these things. So they are not getting into the deep, intricate things of the subject knowledge and the domain knowledge, and they always try to read certain topics which are generally asked in the placement interviews and all. So just it's kind of superficial type of thing. So yeah, these are some 2 or 3 challenges which I wanted to highlight from my point of view.
Yeah, Kirti, if you could add something about your challenges or like So it's been a few years in the teaching as well as research together. So what are your challenges so far?
Yeah, I think I would like to point out three of them which have really affected me. And I think the first one carries on from your PhD, or in my case, I started doing research from BTech. So I'm doing exactly the same thing now that I was doing in my BTech third year. So there has been no change. But the biggest issue that comes up in our field is the very nature of research. For most of the time, there would be nothing happening. It's as if like your life produces no output whatsoever, and then all of a sudden you'll probably get a grant, or you'll get some result, or you'll get a paper out, and that's all. That's the happiness moment for you. um, Unlike in most corporates, where even if you get to 90% and you fail, your corporate or your seniors would understand and would appreciate the efforts that you put in. However, here you may fail at the very end and the output would be zero. You might have to go to a lower journal or whatsoever, but the appreciation or the rewards, that would be minimized in this case. The second is actually, in my case, very different than what Professor Singh and Anirban just mentioned. Because for me, I was a student in US and I arrived here. So, I compare, not my students, but I compare. I compare the students and my peers and I when I was in the United States. And I sometimes compare them to the students I have. And with no slight to students here or professor there. But I remember our lab would very well run on auto mode. We students would write our proposals would get through, and we would activate the lab. The lab, even if the professor is gone for 2-3 months, the lab could easily sustain itself. There would be no problem whatsoever. However, since I've come to India, it's been a bit of hand holding, very strong hand holding, and I think it gets compounded by being an assistant professor, because everyone looks at where you're going to move forward in your life. So associate professor and professorship becomes your immediate prerogatives. So you try to get to those stages, and obviously the qualification criteria is tough. So handholding becomes very severe here. I feel there is a quality difference that may be due to exposure, and I think that is the real reason. Exposure is quite different to the students that are in better universities in the United States and here. The third point, and I think that is also very important, is the amount of failures that you would get in getting in money. And money is important for research, but it is also important for your self appreciation. Like how much money can you get in? Because ultimately that drives your life, your world, right? And at least in Indian scenario, um, money mainly comes in from this place called SERB, Science and Engineering Research Board, which is part of DST. In the good thing about it is that nobody cares like paisa kahan ja raha hai. But the bad thing is nobody is going to really ask you, what are you doing? And that is a problem, because there is no motivation anywhere around. The private sector, at least for younger professors, doesn't have a lot of fundings, especially, and even if they are Western-backed companies. Government sector has its own ways of working. So when you become a professor, the funding dramatically increases. So these are the three problems that I face. These are the biggest problems. How do I get over them? The first problem was, I think there is no getting over it. I think once you get your paper accepted or your grant going through, you get happy. The second was student hand holding. I think you learn to live with it. I think you get used to those things. You count your blessings, and you don't bleat about the bush a lot. The third was funding. I really have not gotten over it yet. So that's my points.
So, like we heard about from our panelists, the point of view being a professor or being in academic industry. So now I would like to ask Rahul, you from the point of view you are in proper like industry domain. So like what are the challenges you are facing there, and then is it more or less similar as that of academics or slightly different?
Yeah, overall, I did not spend much time in industry, but I can relate the research as a life of researcher and corporate world. So, for as a researcher, being a researcher is a very tough job, you know. So, because you have to arrange everything, you need to arrange human resources, you need to arrange funding, you need to arrange develop the lab, everything, and it's very difficult to make somebody to work. Suppose you're if I'm going to say, Sikha, can you work? No, I have my own work. So it's very difficult. So other thing is research funding is very problematic, and in India it's of course it's very much, because the only funding agency is the DST, as Kirti has already pointed out. DST, DBT, these are the only central government funding. And being the India's a huge geographical area, if you see that a single or two body is cannot cover the whole hundreds of institution. So that is the biggest problem. And when it comes to industry, so industry funding is like in India, it's very uncommon, because once industry is going to fund you, so they will say that, okay, if I'm going to invest 1 rupee, I need to make 5 rupees at least. So that is the problem with the industry. And Kirti has already pointed out, when we have the government project, we don't care. We don't care what is the output, and we only see the we have the money for research. We buy the component, buy something, and we did something. Okay, it didn't work, so we just write the report. Okay, it didn't work, so it's okay. So that is the problem, because every time once we work on something, then we have some pressure on in our mind, so that because we should be accountable for that work. So that is the biggest issue. And other thing is, I saw the collaboration. In India, people hesitate to collaborate within this institution as well as the outer institution. So that is the biggest problem as a researcher point of view, or as assistant professor, everybody is facing. So once you shift to the corporate world, so and you got want to funding. So what happened? I just decided that, okay, I have lived with 10 years within academia. Like I have that feeling like how academia works. So let's go to industry, because now the government of India is going to reduce the funding for research and everything. So they are asking that, okay, go for your own things and get funding. So how industry works, how these people's like what they think about when they are giving money. So once we go and see from the suppose if you want to swim, you have to jump into the river, that's it. So just I went to the industries to see how they work, how they think, how they make revenue, how this company work overall, because these companies have never spent much amount on the research, because the R&D research in company is very costly, because the software purchase and the instrument, these are very much costly as per company. Because suppose if you are buying a license, like Keysight license, so it is for circuit design. For industry, one license is 1.5 crore, and for academia we are going to get 6 license in 20 lakh. So there is a huge difference. So they don't fund their self like fund R&D. So as a corporate work, you are assigned some work, you need to finish it, and you are going to apply your own thinking level, own knowledge level, and do the job. That's it. So this is from the corporate world, but industry is always like do the real time like product development. So research is something like fourth generation thing. Suppose you are going to do something which is going to use on this 2 or 3 years later, but in industry they are going to, oh, this is the product, how can we change it, how can we make affordable to the people, how can make it so that every people can use it. So there are so many things industry look into it. So but yeah, if you are going to do something in the real time, so it always, because you are going to live with that. Okay, because this project I am using the mobile, so if I'm producing the chip, oh, this is chip is going to use in that mobile, so it's very exciting sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. I also have a similar kind of opinion like with the government projects. So many times I wonder why in these government projects people are not working seriously, and then they are thinking, oh, government is not doing those things. So and then again in industry you are well paid off, but then there is a trade-off between freedom in choosing research topic, research direction. So yeah, you have to decide what is the like your goal or your takeaway between these two aspects. We have heard about all your challenges from academic and industry perspective, but still, all of you are continuing with your research and academic, more or less research or academic area. So the next question is, what do you find most fulfilling about working in the higher education sector despite of lot of challenges you guys just mentioned? So,
Who's going to start?
yeah. So if you are ready, then you can start.
All right. Actually, the fun part is that in this higher academia field, we are free to decide where we want to work, what we want to work, what course we want to teach, even though we are going to decide which subject we are comfortable to teach this semester or next semester. Even though we have a freedom, a lots of to fix the time management kind of things, we are free to manage our time. Second thing, what I really believe that if you have a PhD degree, that's give you the freedom to decide which part of the world you want to work, where you want to settle down, and whatever you want to do. You want to go for a R&D field in a industry, you can join. You want to go academia field, you are free to join. You want to do whatever you field you want to go after completing your higher study. What I believe that, I think previous someone already told about that, higher study make you to focus one direction. That is very very important. So you know that after that what you have to pursue in your career, and if you are going to focus in that direction, you will be top of some number of the people in the world, not in the college or university. So that is very very important. So in as per my point of view, I always recommend everybody finish your all study. If you want to, if you can do it, finish your masters and PhD, and then after you decide where you want to work. You want to go industry, after finishing your degree you can go for the industry. Like I can see that Rahul is working industry after PhD. He know that what he is really doing on that topic or not, and 100% he is enjoying doing his work. That is the also very very important. What I found that lots of people has not satisfaction once they join after bachelor degree, and they always think that which field they want to work, because they join the industry and then later on industry changing their product, their topics, and then they have trouble. So I know that now from my batch, it's after 20 years, lots of students who was with me, my friends, they want to pursue their PhD degree. Can you see that? So why? Because now they are tired of industry life, because their health body is also not supporting, industry is also not happy to keep them that much long time into their industry, because they have to pay higher salary. So now they are in that kind of problem. Like even though you can see the Microsoft has fired one of my batch, it's my friend, it was also from triple IT. He worked Microsoft last 20 years. He joined Microsoft from triple IT, and now he's working in Seattle. And then last month he said that now he want to join the academia field, how he can pursue PhD degree. He just finished his master degree. So what I just want to emphasize all of you, please, if you can, finish your all study and then decide for the academia, because once you have a higher degree, it's you will have freedom to not only for the industry, and second thing, its best part is that we work for ourselves. we do publication, it's our name, and it's our grandchild also going to read that paper, not only we are reading now. So that you can see how much impact your research is going to be. And we meet young people always, so you can see that the academia always make you young, every year we are going to meet young people, we are going to talk what's going on, new updates between the generation. So we know that, right? Because we are interacting lots of young students and young people. So we never get old also as a professor in this field. So we got a lots of benefits once you join in academia field. Of course, there are challenging to get the grant in initial of your career, let me tell you. But of course, after some time, you will know the path, how to get the grant. So, and once you have grant, you are going to travel all over the world. From the grant funding, you are doing lots of research work, because that motivates you to do good research work. Because you want to join big conferences, big event, to participate there, to show your caliber, how much research you can do in the world, not only within the university or country. You are now competing with the world people, in the world, whatever peoples are working in your field. So that makes you a lots of satisfaction, it makes you very happy. Even though you are not making big money, but you will be at the night you sleep well, what I can tell you in this field. So because you are good in your field, and if you are doing like that. So one thing is this, I just want to emphasize in higher academic field. Second thing, Professor Tiwari just left, and I will tell you, since I graduate until now, I still continue to work, Professor Tiwari. Still, we are organizing one conference, maybe you guys know, a human computer interaction SCI conference from triple IT. Last 5 years I am take care about that conference. This year going to happen in triple South Korea also. So still I'm working with Professor Tiwari, but I just want to mention that if you have good relationship with your professors, if you have work sincerely your master's thesis or your project, of course always professor would like to keep you in their network, and then you will have happy life once you are connecting, and your guides emphasize, like push you to do some research work and this kind of thing, right? So I have great time to in this field, so I'm enjoying my life. Go ahead,
Yeah.
I think.
I can also relate with your opinion. So the freedom is one of the most, rewarding point, I would say, because after, let's say, 10 or 15 years later on, you would not be, very by your physical health would not allow you to do push yourself. And then in the academic, you are your own boss. You can decide your research statement, everything. So yeah. So is there, like, any one of you would like to add something on this question? Kirti, Anirban, or Rahul?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so
like I'll
okay.
add my own. Oh, okay, Anirban, you go ahead.
No, no, Kirti, please go ahead. You start.
Yeah, so I think I'd like to add my own opinions. I think Professor Dhananjay has really succinctly put most of the things out. But in my perspective, I have been a bit more mercantile in my thinking. Um, what I want to do cannot be achieved by being in industry. So what I want to do is have my own company. And I'm an electronics graduate. Most of my work is supposed to be for defense. I'm trying to pry open Indian defense that they can give us money and believe in us instead of just importing. The amount of investment that I need, each of the equipment that my lab has, is around 9 to 10 crores. That could not have been there. I administer these instruments. That was not possible had I been in any industry at this age. And definitely, I couldn't have used stuff for my own benefit. As of now, I teach at Bell instead of making products for them. But it is a slow process. I hope someday we get contracts for what I want to do. Um, and I think that comes from, although failures have been, many in doing this, and but a lot of my funding is for, is trying to do very practical and very, on the field stuff, and that has not really materialized. But as Professor Dhananjay said, may with time, someday this would happen. And for me, that has been the case, that it was the only way if how I can achieve that step. The second point is, I think, as again as Professor Singh mentioned, I think when you reach at the age of 40 to 42 in industry, things start to hit you. You know, it's a there's one thing about your age, your body taking over, but there's also a simple fact about the corporate sector being pyramidal. You know, there's only one CEO. There are thousands of professors. Every one of us become a professor, but there's only one CEO. That really takes a toll after some time. And um, as you said, compounding with how your body reacts, that can really impact you. And again, I mean, you're the master of your life. You can spend time with your family, with people who are 10 years younger to you, and those are advantages which you will never get. And especially in India, in better institutes, you get close to government sectors which you would never be. You get in panels, you feel that you're contributing to the country, even though you're not getting monetary funding, but you're involved in policy making for your country, for the future of your country, and that in itself is a very good incentive to be in this field. And I think that would sum up my points.
Yeah, great. Anirban or Rahul, if you have any.
Yeah, so as both of you correctly pointed out, that like in higher education, we have our own freedom. Maybe not at the point in PhD where you select one particular topic, but as you move on higher in postdoc or whether in job or as in faculty positions, so you get to explore more. You get to collaborate and work with other professors and researchers in other domains and well, and you can just explore other fields. You are not just restricted to one particular field. So that is one perks of being in higher education. Another is always you can increase your social networking, like you are working with your peers or maybe students, young minds, and India as well as abroad, especially some renowned researchers. So you can also collaborate with industry people. So it really widens your horizon of thinking, and you can explore latest technologies as well. And obviously, you have your own time, you have your own ways. Yeah, probably in your starting stages, like in India, we have related to setting up our offices as well as getting good research grants for students and all. But yeah, these are some of the difficulties we face. But as we move along, like yeah, we have advantages. Like Professor Dhananjay also covered, like we can go to abroad conferences and make more social networking, open up with your research-oriented mindset and these things. So these are some of the points I wanted to highlight. It has been covered by other two professors.
I just want to include one more point here. When I was as a faculty during that time, even though in India nowadays government also started, you can start your own business. You can start up with your students in your laboratory, and you can get grant for the industry as well. Even though what I really found that if you are doing your research work in masters or PhD, some innovative idea, some new novelty on that, based on that work you can start your startup. And why I'm just emphasizing here, reason is that lots of young students, they want to go into that startup, they want to do their business. I just want to emphasize, if you go with after higher study to this into, failure rate become very less, because at that time you know that what you are going to do that, and particular topics you have background and more deep knowledge. Young students, they are trying to into that, but found that lots of failureness going on, because they do not know, but they have huge passion to pursue startup, but for that they have lots of struggle as well. Once you graduate, you will have also big network, You can connect easily. Once you are going to meet or you are going to pitch your idea, people are going to listen after higher study. During my tenure in South Korea, I started two startup company, and it's really very successful now. Underground parking lot solution, we have implemented more than 30 parking lot system in South Korea. Underground parking lot, if you guys have time, just go there, Vestila Lab. And now around 68 members are working that company. So what I just want to emphasize that if you have passion to go in that direction, first finish study, and then it's more easy. You can have two things to parallel pursue on that. You can do whatever you really want. That don't jump directly to follow other students what your friends are doing into the startup. You must have to keep maintain your background strong, what topics you are going to pursue for that. That is also very, very important nowadays.
So our next question is also somewhat related, as you mentioned about the grant or for a startup. So the next question is, what are the fellowships available for doing masters, PhD and postdocs from India as well as from foreign universities?
Who is going to start? I think Kirti can start now because he connected both place, India and abroad as well.
I mean, we both shared the same thing, but I'll just go ahead with my PhD time, and I think I'll just specifically be for United States. So I was admitted in PhD program, and I got my master's on the way. In the US, at most you will be funded for the first year by the department. After that, you have to either be funded by your lab, eh, as and you'll colloquially be called a graduate student researcher or something like that, or you will be given a teaching assistantship. So there's either a TA or RA. TA is basically handled as the department funding, and RA is more of your lab funding. Those, I think, tend to be the points. I think most people from India doing their bachelor's would leave for United States. I think that tends to be the goal, and I think those are the two ways how you get funded generally, especially in electronics and IT. Yeah, India, I think government funds you. That's it. India getting funding is pretty easier. So yeah, I think those are my points.
All right. So let me tell you about the South Korea style, because South Korea has huge grant. Let me emphasize here each and every one. If you want to get the scholarship, focus South Korea, because maybe you guys know that all over the world, Korean government expand their budget 6.5% plus in the R&D field, research and grant. So in the Korea, almost every professor has grant fund. So best way to join any lab, you can go to the professor's profile. Every professor has their own page based on their university. You can choose your professor, send them nice email with your CV, updated CV and transcript. They will get back to you. And then they will talk to you one-to-one interview, and then that is the way how you can get like research grant, like research fund. They are going to support your tuition fees, they are going to support your stipend, and stipend is also pretty good. So everything they are take care about you. Just keep on trying. So I recommend you, if somebody is listening from here for the undergrad or master students, if you want to go for the grant, if you, and South Korea, to get the admission does not require GRE score. They require only TOEFL score, because they want someone who graduated from good college. If he has some good programming skill and he is able to write a research paper, they are going to select you. That is the one way to get position there. Even though postdoc somebody is looking there, they can also try with that, with their research plan, what they are going to that, because the professors has grant there. Almost every university has this kind of facility there. So if you want to target, if you want to go other part of the world, there are lots of grants you can find in, even though the internet has lots of people make the link and connection which grant you can apply for there. Korea, Korea also has those kind of government grant, KGSP we call that, but number of the acceptance rate is very low. So for the Indian people, that grant only they select seven peoples from the India side, and if you there are the two types of you have to apply Korean embassy in India, and you can apply direct to the university professors. So total, I can say that 25 to 30 students they get grant from the government side. But if you are targeting to the professors, they will directly connect you. And once, and second thing, once professor agree to choose in their lab, so you are going to get admission in the university as well. So you can make the university list, you choose the professor, and you can directly contact to the South Korean universities. Second thing, I just want to also emphasize that Korean professors are too much getting grant, so they also want to get publications because they need to support the report as well, and they try to hire foreign students because they need someone who help them to write the papers as well. Korean students are very smart who do the graduate study. They are really very good students, top ranking, but still they are lacking to write good papers. They are able to write the result, they are able to produce the good result, but lacking the making the publication. So you will have good environment, number of the students who are working in one project. Usually one professor has big grant, and one grant has 7, 8, 10 students are working same project. So you will have proper colleagues. Like I did my PhD, the project was ubiquitous healthcare system. In that project was very big project, so we were around 25 students in our lab. We all are working same topic. So somebody is working for the healthcare data, collecting from the sensor nodes from the patient's body, transferring to the data. My work was that to wireless sensor nodes at 2007 and 8 I'm talking about. That time smartphone was not, we use PDA. I collected data from sensor node from patient's body, ECG, PPG, temperature, this kind of data, transfer to the PDA that can access to the professor. Because I belongs to communication, so my work was how internet connect over the small tiny chip sensor node. So that time was 6 low pan, one standardization. So I worked for that standardization, that society also. So anyway, so what I just want to mention that if you can go for master study in South Korea, I recommend you all choose there because only 2 years, but the professors will help you to make how to write a paper. The professors going to help you to produce good number of the paper during your 2 years master's degree as well. And once you learn your master's, then you can decide where you want to do for PhD, or you can continue in same lab. Totally up to you guys. Okay.
Yeah. I can add some name from the EU. So European Union has some scholarship like Marie Curie scholarship. So you can apply, a professor can apply, and on the behalf of a student, you can also apply. Other thing is the one is the Horizon Europe, which has the huge funding, like $100 billion until 2027. So this is the biggest in the overall EU. And for a country being, if you are talking about the country, so different country has their own government based initiative for the funding. Like if I'm talking about the Ireland, so Ireland has some scientific foundation of Ireland, so they provide the funding. And as well as there are so many private funding is also some, there are some huge royal groups are there. So like Royal Society of England, there are so many private funders who can, they also give some funding, you can apply. And talking about the India, so India is mainly, uh, if defense sector we are talking about, so ISRO and DRDO, they are going to fund the project. And other thing is the most probably most PhD positions are funded by MHRD and DST. So, and other thing is one more body is biotechnology department, which is which is has a huge funding, which is available for nanotechnology and biotechnology group. So these are the things, and there is some Indian government scheme like Vishwasarya scheme for PhD, Prime Minister Fellowship, which is the very good scheme for the researcher having PhD degree, and at the same time where you are going to get paid like 80,000 per year per month. So this is the scheme available in India. This is from my side.
And then there are in Indian scenario there are a lot of this, let's say Qualcomm scholarship is there for PhD, so you have to apply
Yeah.
every year. So there are a lot of scholarships are available apart from MHRD. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
If you see
it's
that,
only
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
have problem in Kerala business story also
yes, yes,
students.
yeah. So by
So
considering the
yeah,
time
so
of interest, oh yes, yes, please, anyone.
yeah, so as we were discussing about scholarships, like we were discussing about from a student point of view or like from a faculty point of view, like
From a
both.
student point of view.
Okay, student, but yeah, so students, I think, yeah, I should look for like good scholarships. Like in UK, we have many from EPSRC funding projects from UKRI. If you go to their website, also UKRI, you will find many projects, and also professors have those projects and they want students working on them. Similarly, for I mean US, Canada also we have various scholarships. So particularly with focus to Canada, I would like to mention like many professors have discovery grants, which are basically 5 years. I mean funding they have, and from there they can fund their own PhD and all. So and from there they can fund their own. I think also by applying for scholarships, like we have Banting and some for QNT fellowships, particularly. So they can apply. So like I think we are closing or what breakout? Sorry.
Yeah. So
Breakout, sorry. Okay, so yeah, I'd like to conclude. Yeah, so they have good opportunities. Interested. I mean, you may go through the various websites, government agencies, and all, and you may get in contact with professors about your own CV properly, focus on what your skill sets are and what projects you have worked on. So basically, if they want to, so how you can contribute to their project, and so like that you can always contact professors for higher getting you have worked on. So basically, if they so how you can
All right.
contribute.
So there are the one comments I can see there. One undergrad student want to know if you really want to go for the research field. You just, as I mentioned before, also just send email to the professors. But whenever you are going to send the email to the professor, make your clear goal, what you really want to do and why you want to work under that professors. Okay, and so during that time you can contact with the professor with your some idea or something to topic you want to pursue on that. I think professor is going to reply back to you. Just you are sending email and you saying you want to work on the research, generally professor do not reply because they used to get a lots of email. But if you have nice idea and plan, they are 100% going to reply back to you. So just drop them
Uh,
email. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, in my perspective, I think I would say that you will be surprised how much triple IT can help you. I think
Yeah.
make a plan, just reach out to your professor. It would take some time. I needed a software in those times, it was 5 lakhs for a license. Took us 3-4 months, but we were able to procure. I'm talking about 2010. So sometimes, yeah, you have to reach out. You have to build up what you want to do. Reach out to your professor, and you'll be surprised how things can actually work. And as an undergrad, trying to get admitted in a PhD or a master's program in a Western country, it's better you start your research as soon as possible. It really adds to your admission criteria.
It's also if you have undergrad, some publication and research background, so everybody love to take you. Let me tell you also, because nobody want to teach nowadays to how to write a small paper. So they got a lots of opportunity, the students who already have background. So the professors generally choose those of them. So better is that if you are learning undergraduate, how to write an article, how to write a paper, read some papers, and then I think that will help you a lot in higher study. All
Yes.
right.
Yeah. So by considering the time limit or something, so I think we should conclude this session. So thank you very much, Professor Singh, Kirti, Anirvan, and Rahul, for sharing your opinion and your experiences. So now I would like to hand over to Ayushi.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for taking out the valuable time to share your experiences and advices. We all truly had an insightful time listening to you sharing your stories with us. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
day, you all.
Good night. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.